I remember when I was young and still played a lot of online first-person shooters, and to date myself a little bit, that would have been Doom, Quake, Unreal Tournament, and so on, back when term frags was still in common use. I, didn't really play a lot of other game modes besides just team deathmatch, or for that matter, deathmatch. And in those scenarios, I remember that, if you just ran around just doing damage to everybody, right, then you didn't really get any points for it. You only got points for if you got the final hit. In fact, it felt a little unjust to me that, you could do all the work on narrowing down a, opposing player's health. Someone else would get the final hit in, and then they get the point for it. They get the frag. Again, this term used at the time. And, looking back on it, I think there was actually this kind of useful notion there that running around making a little bit of progress on a whole bunch of things doesn't really count. It just doesn't. And I know it's something that oftentimes we get real distracted by, we get real caught up in, where there's so many things we put in our to-do list that we mean to do, that all of which might be a good idea if it was pursued, but in practice it's like a player of one of these online shooters running around just doing a little bit of damage, a little bit of damage, a little bit of damage, not actually following through, not finishing far enough along to get a point. And this is something that obviously, I advise a number of people talking about what they're working on. At any given time, a lot of them will have a lot of different ideas, none of which are really pursuing deep enough to make the real kind of headway on it that's going to help them stand apart from someone who's frankly not working on that idea at all. And so, whether we're talking splitting your attention between game development stuff, we're talking about different directions your business or even maybe your sort of, support community could go. These are things that if we can focus our energy on picking one, following after it, staying on it, we can usually get a whole lot further with. And this is something that, early on in my business, I had the same sort of challenge where, I wasn't sure yet maybe which one of 4 or 5 different ways I might proceed, all of which seemed at the time equally possible as far as I could gauge. And so the only way to answer those was to really push them far enough, either alternating between them or occasionally early on, maybe a little bit of spreading myself thin, but it was always in the direct focus of which one of these am I going to be able to narrow down and really drill in on? Which of these is going to become my main thing? And sure enough, originally it was sort of the ebooks and the audio courses and those kind of things became the one-on-one private training has since morphed into the club. But these are things that, there's still another 2 or 3 that I'm not even going to mention here because they're sort of opportunities or avenues I had pursued to see is this worth engaging in. But as soon as I figured out that it was not as high of a priority, it was not going to pay off as well, it was not going to be as valuable to other people, then I shed that without any sort of shame or regret as to, then that just can't be where the energy goes. That the way it actually helps people or affects people, impacts people, is when we follow through on something and we finish it. And, I realize there's some examples these days, PUBG or for that matter Minecraft, where a game will be out in some sort of open alpha, early beta, whatever form of it's not technically finished. But obviously at the scale for those games to be successful, it's because they were already playable and they were out there and they were reaching strangers. So even though the definition of what's finished has changed in 2018, and also in the way lots of games will continue to, wisely so, put a game out there, gauge feedback, interpret responses and criticism, and reinvest energy back into improving it, that's part of the process of how things come out. But it still happened from them taking something far enough along to put it out there in front of people, getting real reactions, real feedback, real, where we can no longer fool ourselves about what's possible, what it's capable of becoming. We have to look at exactly, but what is it? And how far can we bring it with our current means, our current resources, our current skill level? And I know that's one of the things that holds us back a little bit, because sometimes it's comfortable what it might be. But the only way we're going to ever get better at it is pushing it to be, we can take a form, putting it out there, accepting some compromises or part of anything that gets released or far enough along to that level, and then learning from that, building upon that, taking it further. That's a point on the board, if you will. Anyway, that's stuff for the day. It only really counts when it's finished. If you find yourself spreading yourself thin in terms of running around doing a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one, a little bit of that one, a little bit of that one, but as time passes, you still can't really point back to any of those as being substantial enough to build upon, might be time to sort of strike things off that list. Sometimes we've got a tendency to try to impress others with just how much we're working on. The reality is I'm never going to be impressed with how unfocused somebody is. That's stuff for the day. Thanks for always tuning in. I have another video for you tomorrow.